Hey RWBY fans, it is us, Finite Unlimited once again. I am the narrator.
I am the editor.
And I already said we were Finite Unlimited, but here we are. Hey, so we're coming back for Chapter 11, Heroes and Monsters. Just before we go on, shout out to NJ Lamp Films, I think so, for his wonderful comment on our reaction. You know, just liking our video before watching it.
We love blind loyalty.
It's the kind of loyalty we try to foment. Some of you guys need to pick that up. Anyway, apart from being incredibly pretentious, some stuff happened this episode, some hard-hitting stuff. Some stuff I thought was actually a lot worse at the time. But let's get into it a little bit.
It's all about the moment.
But first thing on our agenda is Neo flying off the ship. Now, the way she did that did really remind me of Mary Poppins. Like, Ruby activating her umbrella, she gets pulled off by the air current. Someone did comment, I don't know what forum this was on, but we just go everywhere and look at other people's opinions. Someone said that a lot of people for a long time had thought that Neo represented the Cheshire Cat, but someone had said that she actually more resembled Mary Poppins for a multitude of reasons that I forgot. Anyway, it might hold some weight. Maybe some of you can explore that for us. Also, one of my favorite characters supposedly died in this episode. Holy Roman. Torchwick.
Rome has fallen, people. Wait, what? No, that's another topic.
Yeah, but that's on RWBY Wiki, by the way. Check that out. But chances are, like, despite original fears, his death scene was sort of like what was supposed to be like Ironwood's in the last episode, sort of lackluster. I mean, hard-hitting because of the sort of dark scenario that we're facing right here. But he might not necessarily be dead, or Lord Grimm just got pissed off and decided to make one of his creatures eat him.
Death was such a cop-out.
Yeah, it was ironic too, because you'll say, like, the good guys always die, but the bad ones always survive, and then, boop. So
he was basically monologuing.
Yeah, well, big mistake when you're a villain, I suppose. But chances are he might come back. Whether he's the same afterwards is hard to say. I sort of like the idea of like there being a sort of grim Roman Torchwick. That might make for an interesting sort of twist in his character. Then again, I don't know how Neo's going to react to this whole thing, considering we don't know exactly what her connection to him is. You know, she could just be some stray that he picked up along the way and she became dependent on him and then she realized, oh, he's dead? Oh, brilliant. Maybe that'd be like the only time she ever talks.
The funny thing is, the way Roman said Neo, it was very touching, I felt, for the moment.
Wonderful partners. Maybe just because she's so short doesn't mean she isn't right around his age. They might be, you know, partners. We don't know much about her, so who's to say? Not that it didn't stop some people anyway, like, you know, Jack's wife is like a lot younger than him, isn't she?
I don't know.
Katie, I think. Anyway, that's achievement hunter right there.
To be honest, I don't really go into the personal lives much of.
No, but I had read that somewhere. Also, Velvet's semblance. Ching 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 ching. Weapons. It was obviously about the weapons that people were carrying around. There was no way that Rooster Teeth just planted that there. Just like because to make Velvet a little more humorous or entertaining by taking pictures of people. That was clearly a plant.
She looked like a hipster.
Well, yeah. But
I take photos with my old Sony camera.
It was sort of very funny how Velvet... Well, I found it really cool that Velvet was using everyone else's sort of fighting styles in that battle. It's very cool and very effective because, as I said during our reaction, she could use any style that would help her in a particular scenario, which is a massive advantage. Although I do believe someone had a go at Velvet for not having any original style or power or anything like that. But at the same time, it is a very valuable semblance. And who's to say there isn't still more to her than just that? But, you know, I think anyone would have a hard time defeating Velvet because of that fighting style. So don't discount her for that. She may lack the style, but she doesn't lack for power and skill. Ironwood Terminator, that wasn't hard to call, I don't think. Okay, but then again, half his body, machine. What incident must have happened to him to have caused that?
And how did he survive it?
Yeah, like losing half your body, like usually would mean immediate death. Like, either side of your body, you've either got heart on one side or the lungs on the other side, sort of thing. If you lose one, you're dead. Unless for some reason, like, I don't know.
Unless there's an outer casing in its internal organs.
Yeah, that could be possible, like, took a lot of skin damage. I don't know. But apparently Ironwood is part machine.
Unless he did it voluntarily. We never went through that.
Like, who knows? Maybe Atlas has the sort of, I don't know,
Borg. Borg mentality.
Maybe, like, advancing humanity through technology also means merging with technology, perhaps.
What do they call that? There's a group of people who want to do that. Cybernetists?
Cybernetists or whatever. Like, there's some games or whatever that have that sort of aspect to them where humanity upgrades themselves through technology, as opposed to eugenics, which is improving humanity's base genetic structure or whatever. That's different. That's not what Atlas is about, apparently. But it's entirely possible that Ironwood voluntarily submitted himself to become part machine as a means of improving himself. But I think if he was going to do that, he'd have done more than just half his body. He might have done other parts of him as well. So I reckon it was an accident. It just happened to work out that way. Otherwise, we're sort of going into the area that Atlas is actively breaking what I suppose the sanctity of life to advance it. So, but then again, with that whole moving aura from one person to another, maybe already going a few steps ahead anyway. In for a
penny, in for a pound.
Yeah, stuff like that. So, yeah. Also, Crow's scythe was finally revealed, so he sort of is actually a scythe. But I sort of thought it was sort of lackluster. Like, they were supposedly making this whole reveal of Crow's weapon exciting and try to build tension towards its reveal. But when it sort of finally happened, it was already in the middle of a massive battle. And when it was revealed, it supposedly, like, at first it made it look like he was going to attack Ironwood, then he just killed a griffin. I didn't think that was sufficiently badass for its reveal. But I suppose given everything that's going on, they can't let they're not letting the heroes have any hope of winning. Like, I think if they actually let Crow go off his nut and kill like mad, like, they might actually have a better chance. But what the writers are trying to make us think is that the situation they're in is legitimately hopeless. You were going to say something?
No. I was just thinking, like, why can't we have the scene like RWBY did in the Red trailer? Sort of like, it's just a go.
Yeah, that's right. Slaughter hordes and hordes of Grim. But, like, even Coco, who when was originally revealed, was apparently meant to be, you know, super powerful and kick ass. She cut Nevermore's in half with machine gun fire. Now she's shooting at other Grim, but it's not even, it's like, not denting them. So, what the heck? Like, what's going on? Like, is fear actually making them less effective at their jobs?
Or maybe making the Grim more powerful, perhaps.
Like, fear is making their armor stronger?
Yeah, sort of something like that.
Maybe. Like, but I think she was shooting at one of the mechs, though, so...
Armor plating. That's
just explain that one away, yeah. I don't know, I'm not sold on that. I think it's more likely to negative emotions more likely to make huntresses and huntsmen worse at their jobs. But to be honest, deep down, I'm just going to say, like, I reckon it's more plot convenience than actual explanation.
Yeah.
So we'll just go with that. Order 66 ends when the droid control ship crashes. That was, convenient. Not much explanation for that. I suppose that it must explain, like, that ship must have been Ironwood's flagship, and that was the one that held the central command for all the robots.
Which proves
so
right.
that does prove the editor right. He did say that must have been Ironwood's flagship, so it does seem to make sense. That was probably someone's comment on our previous video.
Thank you for that comment.
Let's just have a quick look. Who was that commenter? No, it wasn't a comment. That was an email. Such a shame. You could have had a shout out just now if you commented. Oh well. You win some, you lose some.
Try to guess the time we record this. Come on, guys.
Yeah, that's right. RWBY destroyed that ship as well. Wasn't she trying to take it over to, you know, make use of the ships in the battle? Given the chaotic situation, who can we judge?
But a bunch of chaos.
As I said, nothing's going right for these heroes. Nothing. The bad guys keep having everything going perfectly. It's getting up my goat a little bit. Like, Like people are saying like we're enjoying the destruction and chaos that's happening in Remnant. I am, but I also like it when the good side also has a reasonable chance of like having some victory in this battle or having like a chance at victory. It's no fun when the bad guys just win outright. It has to be a challenge, but then when you've had a bit of a challenge, then you can have one side win outright or whatever. Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Cliches.
Yeah. Blake fighting Adam. Adam Skywalker still being very creepy. You know, like my darling, my love. Like, were they a thing, or is he just trying to make her feel uncomfortable?
I think he's a complete psycho. The way he said, like, he's like, I want you, Blake.
But he's not voiced by Ryan Hayward, so he's an apprentice. So yeah, he's very much like Adam Skywalker, for more than one reason. But I was really surprised that he was, beating and stabbing Blake. That was like. He was saying, like, I'm going to kill everyone you care about before I kill you, and then he sees Yang, and then, like Darth Vader, cuts off the arm of someone else. You didn't see that at first. I only saw it when the shadow of her arm split off from the rest of her body, and I did not believe it. This is like, Yang's going to have to get a cybernetic arm. I don't know if that's going to make her more powerful, but the fact she's lost an arm is definitely going to make her more pissed. So, and Yang pissed is not usually a good thing. But given how angry, like you were saying earlier about how blood-curdling her scream was when she saw Adam stab Blake, like, I thought that she was really going to wreck Adam.
Like, hit him and make him explode in blood.
I suppose, yeah. But I suppose, like, as much as anger makes Yang more powerful, at least receiving damage, but in this case where, it just made her more reckless, and she really did underestimate Adam's power. Like, I think a lot of us fans were thinking that Adam was nothing compared to RWBY, Yang, Blake, and all that. But he's still way more powerful than we think. Sort of like Mercury. Like, at first we didn't think Mercury was capable of much. But he keeps sort of upping the ante. So our enemies are no longer pushovers. They're the real deal. They are tough as nails. So, and Adam, he must be a psycho. Because he said, I'm going to kill everyone you love before I kill you. Then he goes to the kill shot. Like, he must, like, he's just flip-flopping about. I don't know what he's really in for.
That's why I think he's insane, to be honest.
There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to him apart from, like, his anger, which I suppose explains why Blake doesn't like him or doesn't trust him or whatever. It just, he's mad as a hatter. But she used an illusion to run away with Yang. It's sort of weird how she was carrying Yang, too, sort of, like, as a baby. Trudging along. Like, yeah, it seemed more likely that she would have slung her over her shoulder or whatever, but I don't know, desperate situation, you can't be a chooser or whatever.
Her body is heavy.
That is true. Like, she needs to lose some weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, never say that one to her face. But anyway, down in the vault below Beacon, Pyrrha's going for that's the moment we were waiting for the transfer of Amber, the Four Maidens aura to Pyrrha. Jorn set to stand on guard. It sort of makes sense that he was doing that. Like, I don't suppose he could have, run the computer while Osbin stood guard. It might have been better if Osbin had, because, I don't know, given that Cinder got close enough to shoot an arrow to hit Amber and kill her.
Jorn wasn't paying attention at all, though.
No, he wasn't. So,
Well, he wasn't guarding anyway.
Not a good lookout. Good leader, not a good lookout. Yeah, that could have hopefully been avoided. Like, he had a shield too. He could have jumped in the way and, But, I don't know. This sort of keeps the Arcos ship alive. It sounds a bit selfish when you think about it that way. Like, oh no, Cinder's got all of the Maiden's powers, but Arcos is still sailing. But
our ship goes for hearty waters.
And in this case, we're going to see Ozpin fight now, because Pyrrha and Jorn have run out and to get Ozpin's friends Glenda and Crow. I don't know. I honestly don't think he's actually expecting them to get back in time. I sort of think that was Ozpin's way of saying, like, get away to safety. You'll be safe with them. whether I live or die, it's better that you guys survive, sort of thing. So some people who think that Ozpin might die next episode, you might be right. I'm willing to, take you up on that possibility. You don't agree.
No.
Ozpin is really cool. I would really hate to see him die. But it might really set the tone for next volume, so I'm not ruling it out. He could come back as a Force Ghost. Or a Dust Ghost, or however that works. And if you've got any link to the old wizard or whatever, maybe he has some ability. We don't know his semblance. We might find out next episode.
Time travel.
He's Mercury from the future. Yeah, I don't subscribe to that one. But, anything's possible right now, supposedly. What else is there? So, Cinder refers to a she who was right about Ozpin's arrogance. She could be referring to Raven, which I think is highly likely, or someone else.
A lover, he thinks.
Maybe a former lover of Ozpin. Maybe it is in fact a reference to Lord Grimm, if Lord Grimm appears in a female way. There's those possibilities. But given Raven has, had ties with Team Star, maybe she knew Ozpin from the past. It's really hard to tell, because I don't reckon Cinder knows Ozpin from the past. I think we've mentioned this before. The likelihood of Cinder knowing many of the people from the Academy from her past is unlikely, because they would have recognized her sooner. That's depending that the Academy had any security whatsoever, which apparently doesn't seem it did. So, who's really to say?
I think she's talking about her mother, Crow's lover.
Crow's lover?
Yeah, it's Crow's lover.
Not Ozpin's?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
yeah, you're right.
Ozpin's like... hold on, that's very confusing. Because if Ozpin had a thing with Cinder's mother, does that make him Cinder's father? Or did he just have a fling with her mother and it never
cousins?
That makes Ruby the daughter of Lord Grimm. And Yang Jorn's brother.
So wait, Ruby's waited
and Dark Helmet, their former roommate. Yes. We figured it out, guys. We've broken the code.
And Lord Business's second cousin twice removed.
Illuminati confirmed. Yeah. Anyway.
That's how we connect dots in Finite Unlimited.
Yeah, that's actually how we do things. But it's sort of funny how when you write a story, you try to make things more interesting by making interesting family relationships between characters, but sometimes it just really gets confusing. Like, they're that brother. I forget it. So, anyway, predictions for the final episode. Now, I want to say it now just so that people don't complain in the comment section later. We will be late next week putting up our review and our reaction if there is going to be one. Because I will actually not be in town where we live on the day of the final episode's release, and I probably won't be back for a couple of days, and I won't have access to the internet. So I'm going to be mad just thinking about what's happened. And the worst thing is that he might text me to tell me Lord Grimm is confirmed and ruin the finale for me.
I'll try and hold it out. But
do you genuinely think Lord Grimm's going to be confirmed this finale?
I don't know.
I don't know. Like, I think the only way Lord Grimm will be confirmed is if we're going to have a long episode for the finale, and during the later parts of the episode, after Cinder has gotten everything she needed from Beacon, which at the moment seems like she has, she will retreat to speak to her master.
Yeah.
And depending that Ozpin does what Ozpin does best, is show up at the time most crucial, inextricable. I can't say the word. He does it anyway.
Inextricable.
Something like that. Someone will say it better for us. Anyway, Ozpin will be there, and Yang might be there, or whoever. But we might see a glimpse of who her master is, and that might be Lord Grimm. Or we might have the Cult of Grimm confirmed. Maybe the Cult of Grimm will be like the next step leading up to Lord Grimm. It's hard to say, because given how Cinder's done things, it's really hard to say whether she works for the real deal or not, or whether she works as an intermediary, or she's just someone trying to get her best out of this cult and is underestimating what they could do to get revenge on her. I like to think that Cinder's a bit of a renegade like Roman, but then again, given that Roman himself was a renegade and said, like, you can't beat these people, even he appreciates that it is impossible to defeat the sort of people that Cinder is in line with. So I don't think she's exactly dumb enough to betray Lord Grimm if she's indeed working with him. So I'm willing to bet that she is in fact not doing this only for herself, but she is doing it in service to her master, whether that's the cult or whether that's Lord Grimm himself. I think we might have that revealed next episode. If not, some major hint will be dropped at the end of next episode, which might point towards the reveal of Lord Grimm next volume. But we're going to have to wait and see for that one. So I think that's the only way that could happen. Do you have any ideas?
No, that's basically. I don't think there's going to. Since we already have the Grim Dragon, which sort of replaced the Lord Grimm reveal as the big alpha.
Yeah, Elder Grimm.
The Elder Grimm.
Which some people did call rightly. Shout at you guys.
So I don't think there's going to be a lot like a God's descendants upon the world sort of scenario.
Oh, wouldn't that be great though?
So,
with some epic music.
Yeah.
Choir gothic music, eh?
Choir gothic music, love it. I just think, it'd be sort of a darkness reveal sort of scenario.
But then again, something as big as Lord Grimm, shouldn't that only be revealed at a finale?
Yeah,
for a
it has
volume?
to be.
So either be this one or next one. So I'm thinking 50-50 chance Lord Grimm gets revealed next episode. So, yeah, good chances of that. Here's another thing that we had brought up in the past, though. Is the De Rosa part of our original theory still likely? Like, mostly because since everything's been drawn away to focus on the sort of darker elements of the show at the moment, all focus on De Rosa sort of fallen away, and De Rosa, as, you know, her soul being carried by RWBY, sort of been replaced by this idea that RWBY might be a secret maiden whom we don't know about. I don't think it necessarily disproves De Rosa. I still have hope, and I'm not sure how many of you guys still hold hope for that. Because that was a hallmark of our original theory. And a lot of our original theory did pan out in terms of what Cinder's plan was and Raven's likely allegiance and all that. And, you know, things are looking good for Lord Grimm. But De Rosa at the moment seems to be the thing of our theory that's sort of lagging behind. But to think that everything in the series that is going to be revealed has mostly been revealed now, I think is a bit misleading. I still think we're going to be learning a heck of a lot more come next volume. And I still think there's a ton of secrets behind what's going on that is yet to be revealed, especially given the importance of RWBY and all that. I think it's a bit too obvious to call that RWBY is a maiden. It seems too obvious, too easy.
I think the darkness is going to hit before light, so we're going to see all the darkness there is, and then we're going to see the flicker of light in the darkness.
You can't explain De Rosa until Lord Grimm is confirmed. If you watch our theory, we did the exact same thing. We didn't posit the idea of De Rosa, the goddess, until we had established the likelihood of Lord Grimm confirming. So the series might take a similar path in which they establish Lord Grimm, and then when we have to understand the idea of the goddess, then they say, well, that's because the goddess was sort of equal to Lord Grimm in their past, yada yada, big story there. I think still good chances, you know?
Chances.
Just so don't discount that yet. It's still, you know, up there. But I don't know if there's much else to say. I certainly want to continue to uphold my belief that Ozpin is either an existing or previous agent of Lord Grimm.
Or creation.
Or creation. Or creation. It's really hard to tell, given we don't know exactly what Lord Grimm is capable of. He seems to only create things that are creatures of darkness. As we said in our previous review, I believe, we see that all his Grimm creatures are brought out and created from darkness. The idea that Ozpin coming out from the same thing seems very unlikely because he had to be an entirely different person, unless he was touched by the De Rosa or the goddess or whatever, in order to have some sort of light. Because, as Pyrrha says, humans are dark and light, I believe. So, if a Grimm human was existing, they'd have to be an entirely dark human, I suppose. So that's a really hard one to posit. But either way, I think Ozpin had some previous connection to Lord Grimm. So that's why I think when Cinder refers to she, could refer to Lord Grimm, because Lord Grimm could have told Cinder about her former agent, Ozpin. Or Raven simply told her about Ozpin based on her previous experience in the academies. And that might mean that Cinder doesn't talk to Lord Grimm directly. Everything's up in the air. Anything could happen next episode.
I'm wondering how Ozpin became the headmaster right now. Like, was he like in the first class? No, that would make him extremely old.
Yeah, that would make him extremely old. But remember, you pointed this out to me in the reaction that the tower was important. He said the tower must not fall. Meaning the tower might actually have something else of value in it apart from, like, housing the CCT or whatever.
As I said, I think the beacon in beacon means something.
Sort of like haven might actually be a haven.
Yeah.
Or something like that. I don't know what Atlas means. Well, Atlas is sort of like an encyclopedia, isn't it?
Yeah.
So like finding and learning a ton of stuff. So Atlas being a heart of learning, in a way, does actually mean a lot. So what the heck does beacon mean if it actually is a literal beacon?
In the first episode, the first episode, the tower that brings light to light to the world of Remnant was Beacon.
Was the Beacon Tower.
And also it was beaconing, it was shining a light across the land.
It was really weird because, like, if you think about it, that story was told about humanity's creation, and then we had, like, the tower at the beginning sort of thing. So that's sort of weird. Like, is the tower that old, or has it just become a symbol of the beacon? I don't know. But it might, like, that tower might have been built over the beacon. That's why they have vaults beneath the Beacon Academy Tower in the first place. So, who knows? Maybe there's something else that Cinder is trying to get, apart from the Maiden's powers, and that's why she's also down there.
I wonder if Beacon Academy replaced the Beacon, like, military sort of, sort of military branch that hunted Grimm, or defended, like, the Grimm Corps. Let's say, the Grimm Corps of, Vale's...
Defense Force?
Defense Force,
yeah.
And that building could not be new, but could be very old.
It could be. It could have existed prior to Huntsmen and Huntresses.
And
as we know, the Huntsmen and Huntresses were only created after the Great War.
Yeah, and also it has lots of time imagery with the clocks and sort of like the wheels, and sort of like gives a lot of time sort of analogy inside of it, like a clock.
Yeah.
Holding time. And
given that things like the Great War and the Faunus War are still unexplained, there's a heck of a lot about the history of Remnant that we don't know about, and I still reckon that these two wars play a very important part in understanding why things are going on right now. We did have an idea about what really started the Great War, and we were going to make a video about it, but I'm not sure it will come out. So did you want to explain that now, or?
I completely forgot.
You completely forgot? Alright, so I might give a brief summary about what we think was the real cause behind the Great War. It's the idea that what Ozpin said the Great War was about was the idea of individual expression. The idea of individuality, really. So, this idea that each individual person, sort of like what Ironwood did in the last episode about, hey, if you want to go and save yourselves, that's up to you. That's sort of an exercise of individuality, which you go, forget about everything else that's going on. If you want to help fight, you help fight. If you don't, you go. I think the reason for the war was a battle between the ideologies of individualism and community focus. Atlas, if you go back and watch one of the World Remnant episodes that focus a great deal about Atlas, you'll see that Atlas is a very community-minded kingdom. Everyone is encouraged, especially the Huntsmen and Huntresses, are encouraged to join the military for the sake of building humanity and protecting humanity. And their scientific advances are being used to benefit the whole of humanity once again, such as the CCT towers being given as Atlas's gift to the world after the Great War. Atlas being what replaced the defunct kingdom of Mantle. Now, note the word defunct. Defunct has more legal teeth than, say, the destroyed kingdom of Mantle or the dissolved kingdom of Mantle. Well, dissolved is also sort of legal. But defunct might mean that as a result of the treaty after the war, the kingdom of Mantle, which may have been an aggressor in the war, may have been formally destroyed. Sort of like how after World War II, the state of Prussia, which was a big part of the German identity, was formally destroyed and dissolved to prevent the Prussian culture or tradition of strong military prowess and expansionism from involving itself in the German identity any longer. So the sort of idea could have applied to Mantle and saying that you're Atlas now, forget Mantle, you're not from Mantle. So, and in some ways Atlas still carries on this identity of, we're being community-minded as opposed to giving everyone an individual choice. But Ironwood seems to be a little more moderate in that fact. Whether this will end up playing a big role in the future events of RWBY, who knows? Maybe that's sort of what Cinder's trying to stir up again. Sort of like if the Great War is actually sort of like our world's version of World War One, Cinder's trying to stir up World War Two. It's really hard to say. At the moment, it just looks like she's just trying to cause chaos everywhere. And she's practically destroyed an entire kingdom right now. So she might not really need to start a war to achieve the rest of it. But that seems to be the big difference to me. That, these kingdoms fighting for individual expression were like, hey, we need to defend the people's right to decide what to do with their lives. But Atlas is like, hey, we can't benefit humanity if we keep thinking about ourselves first and not humanity as a whole.
Also, since humanity is constantly under attack,
that's right.
They say, well, liberties have to be reduced
that's
for
right.
the survival of all of us.
Yeah. And
which is a common line in many ideologies.
That's right. And that might explain why Ironwood sort of pushed for his military forces to be placed in Vale, because I don't care about what individual choices Ozpin is making as chief of security. If it's not good for humanity, it's not good for humanity. So that may be his ideology coming through there. And we sort of thought maybe this made Ironwood a little like Hitler. But Ironwood does seem to be way more moderate and a little more considerate at times, even if he does truly believe what he believes. So, yeah, since humanity is always on the cusp of being destroyed, such a community focus does make a lot of sense. But it's really hard to tell, given that now Vale, a kingdom that sponsored the idea of individualism and all that, has been destroyed. Maybe the old Mantle ideology of community, one humanity idea sort of thing comes back, which might end up being a threat to the Faunus as well, because they may not consider themselves as being part of this one humanity. So maybe that'll become a big thing for the next season.
If people know their history, you can see where we're getting that from.
Yeah, it's sort of like being far-right conservative. Like, we can't risk, threats to our security, but a lot of people might also lose out under that ideology. Sort of, yeah. I think you can draw your own thoughts on that one. But that's our thoughts on the matter. If you have any thoughts about that thought on the Great War or what's going to happen on this finale, your ideas on whether DeRosa is still going to be a thing or Lord Grimm's reveal in the finale, please leave it in the comments. Leave a like if you like this video. Check out our reactions. We sometimes do funny things, and it really
we laugh, we cry, we smile in glee.
We try to enjoy ourselves without trying to perform for reactions or anything like that. It's really just us trying to be us. That's why we don't dress like this for our reactions. So please go check those out. Subscribe to us if you think we actually know what we're talking about or have any idea what we're talking about, and you just enjoy RWBY and want to listen to us. I can't imagine why you want to do that, but hey, subscribe if you do, and check us out next time. See ya.
Woo!